Hey, I decided to check out the new streaming service Mubi, so get ready to hear about some really obscure movies. Their titles are Beginning, Jess and Moss, and The Tree, the Mayor, and the Library. First up is Beginning. This is a brand new movie from the country of Georgia. It's actually their official submission to the Oscars this year, so you might hear about it soon. This movie's great though. I loved it. It definitely deserves at least an Oscar nomination, if not maybe the win. It's so good. The basic premise is it's about this woman who's a Jehovah's Witness in Georgia. Her husband's like the pastor. And a lot of the locals in town don't really like them and are very violent in showing how much they don't like them, including the police. This movie is brutally slow. Like, it kind of beats you over the head with how slow it is, but it adds to the experience because, like, so many scenes play out in real time. That, like, because they don't do cuts. Basically, the way the camera is set up is it's kind of like how it is right now, except like 30 feet back, and then sometimes characters who are talking aren't actually in frame. And it sort of kind of plays out like a play, which is really, really fascinating. And then, like, you're just kind of watching sort of regular life happen at times to, like, it's not boring, but then, like, it gets interjected occasionally with really, really intense, awful things. And then, like, once those intense, awful things happen, the intensity is elevated because you know it's not going to cut away ever. There are going to be no cuts. The camera's not going to move at all. So, like, you don't get to, like, the relief of just seeing more of what's going on. So you're just kind of trapped in this intense area. And then, like, because you're used to just scenes kind of playing out like longer than you'd expect them to, you know that you're going to be stuck in this awful moment for what feels like eternity. And it just amplifies the intensity of all of those moments. It's brutal. I wish I would have watched this in a theater just to help me, like, get even more immersed into it. It's so good. Oh my God. I was very mindful of my face throughout the movie because it's just like I was, just resting a lot for it, just watching regular stuff happen. And then something would happen and my eyes would grow wide. And I was like, oh, this is happening now. And then they just get wider and wider and wider. And I'd be like, oh. And then before I know it, I'm also just frowning. And there was like a good solid, like, 10-minute chunk where I'm just frowning. Like, after the movie was done, my face hurt from frowning so much. And I wouldn't describe this movie as an enjoyable experience, but it makes you feel things. It affects you. Not all movies need to make you feel good. And, like, when a movie can change how you feel, it's doing its job, and it does it so masterfully. So hopefully, I really hope this movie gets nominated for an Academy Award because it definitely deserves it. I loved it a lot. And again, I don't recommend it because it is very, very slow and very, very intense. But it's so good. Next up is Jess and Moss. This is a 2011-12 movie, American this time. I think it takes place in, like, Kentucky or Tennessee, one of those two. It's the South. And the basic premise, it's about these two second cousins. They're about 5 years apart. One's 13, one's 18. And it's just them hanging out one summer just in the rural South. So it's them just, like, exploring the woods and, like, rundown farms and abandoned places. And it's just them existing. I've heard some people kind of describe it as it's like a series of vignettes. Other people kind of said it was like a scrapbook come to life. I would say it's more like you found a bunch of old cassettes of just conversations, just really random conversations, and it's just you listening to them and, like, maybe going back to some of them sometimes when something resonated with you. And it's just because it's not like a regular movie at all. You're just kind of experiencing this duo's life as if it was like a memory. Like, it's all nostalgia. And, like, that's what I loved about it so much too, is that, like, even though I never did the exact thing that happens in the story. There's so many little things that I'm just like, yeah, I remember doing that as a kid. Just like, you're just watching these two kids just kind of explore nature and just be kids and just like look at things and just do stupid stuff. I strongly recommend this movie to people, even though it's not like any regular movie you've ever seen. It's just gonna be, you're gonna get nostalgia for just like, you're gonna remember doing weird little things as a kid. Memories are just gonna come flooding back to you while watching it. And it's kind of a magical experience. It's definitely full of like melancholy and stuff too, but it's really good. It's definitely worth checking out. I would say you just have to be kind of prepared knowing that it's not a regular movie. It's definitely a different kind of storytelling. And it's pretty short too. It's only like 83 minutes long. I read a couple people say online that they just like wished it didn't end. Like, you just want to stay with them, just stay in your youth forever, kind of. And it's, I don't know, it's something else. It's really cool. I really liked it. I'm really glad I found it. And lastly is The Tree, the Mayor, and the Library. This is a 1993 French movie, and it is something else. The basic premise is that there is this small town mayor in France who wants to build a new library. But the local principal is like, no, 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 parks are cool and stuff. I like this tree, don't do that. There's also a reporter in the movie who wants to like report on the mayor and some other stuff. That's basically the premise, but really the movie is just about a series of like people talking about 90s French politics. And it's so hard to follow, especially as an American, because like, if you're unaware, like, even though they say things like left and right, the left and right are different in Europe. They're way different over there. And like, so it's hard to like piece together like all these different terms they're using and stuff. They also talk really, really fast. So it's like them throwing around terms that I don't know at a very fast pace. So it's hard to follow at times. And there's so many of those scenes. There's also like future conversations, and I liked those a lot. Those conversations were more about like how in the future, in like 10, 20, 30 years, we are gonna be able to work more remotely. And so people don't need to live in the cities anymore, the big cities, for work. They can live wherever and do their job wherever. And it's so much easier. So we're not really going to have big cities in the future. It's going to be kind of people just sort of everywhere. So it's not going to be the city versus the country. It's just a thing. That was just a really interesting idea to hear people talk about and debate about. And it's, you know, clearly that's kind of sort of becoming a thing. The movie is just basically a series of these really intense conversations. And it's almost like the director just recorded conversations between him and his friends and just turned that into a movie. But yeah, the movie was really hard to watch. Those conversations were just so intense. I had to keep taking breaks for myself. The movie wasn't the worst, but it definitely wasn't good. I don't recommend it unless like you're really familiar with 90s French politics. Apparently this movie's a comedy. I don't know. Also, there's a plow outside. I don't know if you can hear that, but it snowed today. Alrighty, now it's time for the rankings. First off, we got Beginning. It's sitting at the top of the really liked category. I can't decide if I liked it more than Lawrence of Arabia. Lawrence of Arabia is currently my number one. So Beginning is either going to be my number one movie or it's going to be my number two movie. I have to sit and process it a bit more because it's just, it's so good. It's like, it's not an enjoyable experience, but it's good. It's damn good. Alright, and then next up is Jess and Moss, or Jess plus Moss, I guess. And that is sitting at number 9 in the really liked category. And bringing up the rear is The Tree, The Mayor, and The Library. That title always gets me. And its place is at number 29 in the meh category. And that's out of a total of 36 movies so far this year. That's so many movies. It's been such a mixed bag of movies, but this year's been great so far. I'm really excited to see what other movies I find and discover this year. It's gonna be a good one. I'm excited.